like, okay, I'm not sure if you can hear me all right. Just let me know. All right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right. Can you hear me okay now? Thank you. Thank you for letting me know no sound. So let me know if you can hear me okay. Genius Jason 9. Thank you. All right. Welcome, welcome to Live in the Music Room. Okay. Let me put in the chat. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right. Can you hear me? I appreciate that. Okay. All right. Please tell me you can hear me. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Wonderful. Whew. Oh, you have no idea how hard I try to make sure everything is right together before I get started. And of course, that's how it goes. You can't hear me. So let me start by saying, welcome, welcome. Let me introduce myself, Miss Christine, and this is Live in the Music Room. And I come in as often as I possibly can, which will typically be Saturday mornings, 10:45 ish, because tech issues, Eastern Standard Time. And if I can't come on Saturdays, I will come on Friday afternoons around 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And so this is a new channel. We're growing slowly and steadily, and so we appreciate everyone supporting the channel, coming in, learning about music, sharing your music background, whether you're new to the channel, old to the channel, a beginner, or somewhere in the middle or advanced. We welcome all music lovers, musicians, everyone, and in between. Okay. So thank you for joining us. Of course, if I can't say it and I can't say it enough, please like and subscribe. Okay. That is so, so important to this channel, to our growth. And we're really, really appreciating all the thumbs up. If you've already subscribed, please give a like. Every time I come on, if you can, or watch a replay, give a like because it really, really helps this channel. Okay. I wouldn't ask you if I really didn't need the extra little likes and subscriptions or subscribes rather. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about what we're going to be talking about today in the classroom, okay? So today we are in Unit 4, and this is Lesson 2, and we're talking about eighth notes, okay? So if you are way, way, way just starting out, have no idea what we're doing and some of these concepts, please watch the replay, okay? Because they really do build upon each other. So today we're going to talk about identifying an eighth note, okay? There are several different notes, but we're going to talk about the eighth note. And when you see it, you'll know what it is. So we're going to identify the eighth notes. Um, I think I have a type. Oh, we're going to be drawing the eighth note, how we draw the eighth notes. We're going to talk about the note value, how we count these eighth notes. Of course, we always have a nice music game. I call it a music game. It's a class play that we will learn to reinforce all the concepts that we go over in today's lesson. And of course, I'm slowly getting all the homework content that you will find in our on our school store. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to everyone what we're working on today. Let me see who else is in the classroom. Looks like we have some, I would say, a relatively new student. Let's see. Genius Jason, where are you streaming from? Where are you streaming from? I'm in New York. Where are you all? Where are you in this big world? Where are you? Okay, let's see. All right, but either way, it's wonderful that you're joining us. If you're watching the replay, let me say thank you. Thank you for watching the replay. And I always ask before I get started, Are you ready to learn? That is my question to you. So if you are able to put in the chat, yes, I'm ready to learn. Come on, let me see you put it in the chat. Ready to learn. Okay, Las Vegas is in the house. Yes. Okay, I bet you it's really, really hot right now in Vegas. In the month of August, oh my goodness. I happened to go to Las Vegas in the month of August, and I don't think I will do that ever again. That level of heat, mm, mm, mm. All I can say is air condition, air condition, air condition. Well, it's wonderful to have you, and thank you for joining us. And please come back, okay? Come back, come back. And yes, that's all. I mean, I had a great time, but all I can remember is the level of heat in August. So, and I'm sure you understand. We probably are used to it, but when you're not used to that heat, oh my goodness, it can really shock your soul. All right, so we're going to get started with our lesson. I'm going to assume that, I'm going to assume that everyone is ready to learn. So let me just get myself together. Okay, here we go. All right, wonderful. So let's get to our lesson today, okay? So as I mentioned, today is Unit 4, Lesson 2, Eighth Notes. Now, before I dive right into today's lesson, I'm going to do kind of like a quick review, okay? Something that we worked on last Saturday, last week. So Las Vegas, come on, Jason, Genius Jason. Are you familiar with this particular? I have the arrow here, and I don't want to give the answer away, but what do we put at the end of music? At the end of a section in music, what do we put there? Do you know? I'll kind of give you a few seconds to give me your answer. So let's put some 30 seconds on the clock, and I'm going to get some tissue. Okay. Wanted to get some tissue here. All right. Let's see. Do you know what we put at the end of the music when it has to end? What is the term? Does anyone know? Okay. And if you don't know, you can put I don't know. Okay. All right. You forgot. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. We call it a double bar line. Okay. Does that ring a bell? A double bar line. Okay. So obviously this is one bar line and then two. And the second one is a thicken line. Okay. That's what we put at the end of the music. So when you see the double bar line, you know automatically, visual clue, that is it. Everything stops. We are finished singing. We are finished playing. The music no longer continues. Okay, unless there's more to the piece. Sometimes you may see it twice, but typically not at all. Double bar line, that is the end of the section. Okay, so no worries if you forgot. That's why we're reviewing, and there's always the replay. Okay, let's go back to something else that we talked. What do we call this symbol? This was last week's lesson, okay? We have the double bar lines, but we put two dots right in front of it, okay? So what do we have to do? What is this called when you see this symbol? You know, music has all sorts of symbols. What does this tell us? It indicates a repeat sign, okay? This tells us to repeat, okay? So when you see this symbol here, you have to repeat, 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 okay? And of course, yes, I'm repeating myself deliberately. All right. So maybe you didn't remember that, and that's okay. This is one of the reasons why I do a review time, because it can be very difficult to remember all of these concepts, okay? And of course, you can go back. This is all in Unit 4, Lesson 1, okay? All right, so now last week, we listened to When the Saints Go Marching In, okay? And I have in a red circle or oval, repeat. But in your own words, if you were to look at this music, What would you do? Okay, you have to repeat, but what are you repeating? In your own words, can you tell me what do you have to do when you're looking at this music when the saints go marching in, right? Or any music that has a repeat sign. What does the musician, singer, anyone that's reading the music, what do they have to do? I want someone to tell me in their own words, when you look at this music, what do you have to do? Okay. And I'll give you some time. Trying not to, this is almost like an open ended question. Okay. So you have to articulate in your own words from your understanding when you're looking at this music. What do you have to do? It tells us to repeat. Miss Christine put it in red. Has to do something. I have to do something, but what am I doing? How am I repeating? I don't know. I want you to tell me. Okay? All right. Come on, Jason. Come on, Las Vegas. All right. You might not know this. Okay. You might not know this. Thank you. Mobile Music is back in class. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So let's say you didn't know. Okay. And that's okay. So let's go ahead and work together. So we're going to sing, right? When the saints go marching in, right? And we're going to, my highlighter is actually just highlighting the music. And of course, there's two clefs, right? So this is a piano piece. So you would be reading both clefs, treble clef and bass clef. So I'll highlight both staffs, okay? And so here we go. We got the treble clef, right? And of course, if you're playing, you will be playing this together, but I can't highlight two clefs at the same time. When you get to the repeat sign, if you did not know, you have to go all the way to the beginning. I'll put an arrow here and sing and sing and sing, or play and sing and play and sing. And then when you get to this double bar line, just like we talked about at the very, very beginning of our lesson, when you get here, when you see the double bar line, you know that that is the end. Okay, I'm highlighting the end of the section or the entire piece. Okay, so does that make sense now? Now, when you see this music or any music and you see a repeat sign, you know that you have to go all the way to the beginning and play the entire piece until you get to the double bar line. Okay. All right. And this is why I review. Okay. Let's do another one. Oh, and you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this for our students. I'm going to let you hear what that looks like. Okay. So here we go. All right. So here is When the Saints Go Marching In. We actually did this last week, but there's nothing wrong with reviewing. In fact, I love to review. Okay. So everyone, let me actually put in my metronome, turn my metronome on and my count in. There we go. Okay, so here we go. Listen, listen. Come on, Las Vegas Mobile Music, and those of you who are watching. All right, let's listen together. You can see the lyrics. Ready to get to that repeat sign. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's watch. Oh, went right to the beginning. Did you see that? Okay, let's see what's going to happen. Is it going to repeat again? I don't know. You tell me. Double bar line. Okay, and there you go. All right. So how about that? Does that kind of bring everything together? Yes, happy Saturday to you, 2 for 1 Entertainment. All right. So now everyone can kind of see. Yes, the song is very slow. I love that, Jason. It is slow, and it's slow because I'm not trying to make things super hard. This is a beginner's lesson, course, what have you. And so I'm deliberately going slow so you can follow along with the music. Very observant. Thank you. Thank you, Las Vegas. I love that you're from Las Vegas. I haven't been there in ages. Now you're making me want to go back. Okay, so here we go. So now this is something that we worked on last week. Okay, so all of these concepts are last week's lesson. So if you forgot, if you have no idea, or if you already know this, either way, the resources are here for you. Okay. So now, in your own words, you're looking at this sheet of music or this melody line, right? And so, what would you have to do if you saw this music? I have solfege syllables here at the bottom, right? And in your own words, and we kind of just talked about this, but let's see. You're looking at this music, someone just puts this in front of you and they say, "Can you sing it? Can you play it? Can you tell me what you see?" How would you explain this to someone? How would you explain this to someone? Okay, I'm going to put my little dancing music on. Okay. Uh-oh, my shoulders are going. Everybody who knows me, Las Vegas, when you see my shoulders jumping, well, you know that I'm feeling really happy. Okay, it's Saturday. I'm live in the music room and I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really good. Okay, come on. I want you to start to think critically, okay? We talked about the repeat sign. We talked about the double bar line. We talked about how things have to kind of circle back. So, what would happen here, okay? What would happen here? All right, let's see. Let's see what some of the answers are. And don't be shy. Don't be shy. If you don't know, that's okay. I want everyone to feel welcome here. So, play the music as written, okay? Then repeat from the beginning. Okay, that's what 2 for 1 said. Okay, let's go over to our answer. So it means to go back to the beginning and play or sing the music again. So here we go. If we're here, we have do, mi, re, fa, mi, sol, fa, re, do, right? So let's see. My keyboard is a little low. Do, mi, re, fa, mi, sol, fa, re, do. That's our melody line. But now when we see, let's see if I can get my highlighter. When we see the repeat sign, we have to go back to the beginning and sing it again, okay? So let's see if we can sing that together. Come on, Las Vegas. I know you have a beautiful voice. Okay. 1, 2, sing with me. And we're going to honor that repeat sign. Okay. 1, 2, sing with me. Do, mi, re, fa, mi, sol, fa, re, do. Do, mi, re, fa, mi, sol, fa, re, do. All right. Did everybody understand that? Yes. All right. Las Vegas, come on. Oh no, I unfortunately need to tell you that my voice doesn't feel too good and I have a headache. Oh, I'm so sorry. All right. Well, thank you for joining, even though you don't feel the best. How about that? That is some loyalty. Let me give you a round of applause for your dedication. Okay. And feel better. Let me give you a little squeeze. Okay. You feel better. All right. And we appreciate your level of honesty here. Okay. So now this is all review time. We haven't even got into today's lesson, so I kind of have to move us along. Okay. All right. So now we talked last week about you might see a pair of repeat signs, right? What happens if you see a pair of repeat signs? What do we do? Ooh, do you remember? Okay, do you remember? A little tricky, not so much though. Okay. All right, let's see. And if you're watching the replay, you know what to do. Come on, put it in the comments. Yes. Okay, and give a thumbs up, like, subscribe, all of those things. Okay. So let's see, we have a pair of repeat signs. What do we have to do? Okay, what do we have to do? All right, so that's our time. So let's see what some of the answers are coming in. Okay, 2 for 1 is saying repeat the music between the repeat signs. Okay, okay. All right, so let's see. Let's go over here. All right, so here we go. We got a lot of things going on here, but it's not complicated. So let me get my little pencil here. So first thing here, whoops. Oh, my little check mark didn't work out. Let's erase that. We have to repeat, repeat signs sometimes appear in pairs within a piece of music. Okay, so we kind of already know that, Miss Christine. The first repeat sign will then have the 2 dots placed after the double bar lines, okay? So we see that. Here is our repeat sign, and it is after the double bar line, so we'll give a little check there. When this occurs, return to the first repeat sign at the beginning of the section. So let's go ahead and look at our music very closely. We have do, do, then we have do, mi, re, fa, mi, sol, fa, re, do, right? And now here is a repeat sign, but now instead of going to the beginning, we have to go to this repeat sign here, okay, which tells us the first repeat sign. And then after you finish singing do, you go back here, and then do, mi, re, fa. Mi, sol, fa, re, do, and then you're at the conclusion, okay? All right, now let's take a look at that, because sometimes seeing is believing, as they would say, okay? So let's move the music over, and this is so important because you're going to see this, okay? Watch where it goes. It repeats to that first repeat sign. Okay, did everyone see that? You saw that? Yes, okay. So that gives some clarity to all of this, okay? All right, now last week we also talked about something else. And I'm not going to try to give you the answer, but I will highlight what I'm looking for, okay? All right. Okay, so another way of indicating a repeat sign is with, okay, another way to indicate a repeat sign is with what, okay? And I gave you a highlight. I highlighted something on the music to kind of help you figure out the answer, okay? I know you know it. Come on and put it in the chat. Don't be shy. All right. Let me know. Okay. This is all of last week. So if you have no idea, please watch the replays. Okay. They are there for you. You can visit our school store to download these, the worksheets to help you better understand it. Okay, so we are looking for the first and second endings. Okay, so I have 3 steps because I like to break things down and try to make it very, very easy for our beginner students. So play or sing through the first ending to the repeat sign. Let me say it again. Play or sing through the first ending. The first ending is this bracket here that has a number 1. To the repeat sign. So you're going to play to the repeat sign, which is right here. Then you're going to go back to the beginning. And when you're repeating, you're going to now skip the first ending and go to the second ending and then end. Okay? Would you like to see that? I think that makes sense, right? Okay, I'll give you a few moments to ask me some questions about last week's lesson. We dealt with repeat signs, pairs of repeats, and first and second endings. These are all of our review section from last week. Okay. All right. And, if nothing comes up now and something comes up later, I'm happy to answer the question. Okay. All right. So let's go to the pizzeria. Okay. Maybe our Las Vegas student will feel a little better with a slice of pizza. All right. So here we go. We've talked about the parts of a note in Unit 2, Lesson 1. Okay. We talked about the parts of a note. And so here we have, let me just make sure you guys can see everything. We have the note head, right, which is filled in black. And we have the stem, okay? Sometimes students like to call it a line, but we call it a stem, okay? And we call this part not necessarily a circle or an oval or what have you, but we call it the note head, okay? So that is the part, those are the parts of the note. But now today we're talking about eighth notes. So when you add a flag, okay, to the stem of a quarter note, and I should have mentioned that this is a quarter note, okay? My apologies. This is a quarter note, and if you don't know that, you can go back to Unit 2. I believe I talked about quarter note, half notes, and whole notes, okay? So when you add a flag to the stem of a quarter note, it becomes an eighth note. Okay, so let me say it again slowly. When you add a flag, this is a flag, okay, to a quarter note, here is a quarter note, it becomes an eighth note. And so I kind of have a little visual. We started out with the quarter note. We're going to now add the flag, and now voila, we have a quarter note, okay? Just visualizing what this all looks like and how we get to the eighth note, okay? So now let's continue. Any questions about that? Does that make sense? Everybody should understand that, okay? And if you don't, let me know. So 2 or more eighth notes are connected by a beam, okay? So now here's 1/8 note. We have the quarter note. We added the flag. Now it's an eighth note. We add plus another eighth note. We have 2 eighth notes, but they're beamed together, okay? So this little line, we call it a beam, okay? They're beamed together. And you probably have seen this note all over the place, right? Even in home decor stores that have little music, decorations and stuff. But this is 2 eighth notes beamed together. This is 1/8 note with a flag connected to it, okay? All right, so now let's continue to learn. So now my question is very, very simple. How many hearts do you see? It's not a trick question either. How many hearts do you see? Okay. And of course the heart is red. Okay. Now there's a reason why I'm asking how many hearts do you see? Because right now you should tell me I see 1 heart, but voila, the beautiful way we do things online. Now, how many hearts do you see? Okay. All right. Someone is really buzzing me today. Okay. Okay. So the answers are coming in. 1 heart. Good. Now, what happened? We have a half, right? I just cut it in half. Okay. All right. Let's see if any questions are coming in. Let's see if any questions are coming in. You see 1/2. Okay. Okay. Good, good, good. All right. We're going to move along. So in 2/4, 3/4, good. Yes, mobile music. And 4/4 time, right? Eighth notes are equal to 1/2 count. Okay. So let me say it again. When we talked about time signatures here, when you're in a time signature of a 2/4 time signature, a 3/4 time signature, and a 4/4 time signature, the eighth notes are equal to 1/2 count, okay? All right, let's see. Some of the answers are coming in. So you saw 1 heart, okay? Then I cut it in half, right? Good, mobile music. Okay, Las Vegas, only one heart. This is the easy weight. Now it's half. You are funny, Las Vegas. I love that. Yes. Okay, good. So everyone is still staying with me. Okay, so let's continue to learn here. Okay, making this very, very slow. So now here's our eighth. Here's our eighth note, right? In 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 time, eighth notes are equal to 1/2 count. Okay, and so now let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so now we have our 2/8 notes, and we know a half plus a half is going to equal 1. We have 1/4 note. So here we have, let me get a little pen. Just pretend like I got rid of the beam and I added a flag and a flag, right? But we want to beam them together. So instead of just having two flags, we beam them together so they're nice and clean. And the way we count this is 1N. Let's do it like this: 1N or TT, okay? Because they're quick, they're short notes, all right? And so the math looks like this: a half, that's a 2. Oh my goodness. I cannot draw on the computer screen. Okay, and I think that's part of the fun. A half plus a half is going to equal to 1. And we know from our music theory lessons in the past that the quarter note gets 1 beat. Okay, so that's why we have that. All right, so I'm going to come to some questions and comments in just a moment. Okay, and so here it is kind of spelled out. Here's the eighth note, a sound that lasts half of a beat. Okay, and you can see my half a heartbeat, and I have my T. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, Genius Jason, I know you want me in the activity, but I will be back. I need to go use the potty. Okay, okay. All right, too much information there, and I'm glad you're using the restroom. Okay, you go ahead and use the bathroom, and thank you, and come back and let me know you're back in class. All right, okay. So now Mobile Music has a question. Okay, yes, Mobile Music, what is your question? I'll kind of allow you to put your question in, okay? All right. And I want to make sure I go kind of slow because it can feel sort of like a math class, right? Let's just be honest, right? Okay. But don't get lost in the numbers like that, okay? All right. While Mobile Music is getting their question together, I'm going to continue. So we have 2/8 notes. Many times, eighth notes are beamed together. We talked about that. 2/8 notes equal 1 beat. So a half plus a half equals 1 beat. Okay, 1/2 count. I say count, beat, that means the same thing. Okay, and now if we continue, we can have 4/8 notes, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my scribble scrabble. We have 4/8 notes. It equals 1/2 note. Okay, we have a half plus a half plus a half plus a half. Oops, this should be 2 here. Okay, that's an error. Okay, that should be 2. And the way we count the eighth notes is 1 and 2 and. Okay, T, 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 T. Okay, all right. So now let's see. Is there a difference between hearing 2/8 notes that are not beamed and 2 that are beamed? Oh, that's an excellent, excellent question. So let's break this question down. Is there a difference between hearing 2/8 notes, which would be, let's go here to our 2/8 notes. Here's our 2/8 notes, right? And we know that it's going to sound like T, T, okay? T, T, or 1N, all right? So now if you have 2/8 notes beamed together, TT, or one and. Okay, I'm counting or I'm using rhythmic syllables called TT. Okay, so there's different ways of learning rhythm or counting the note value, right? And so when I say TT, that's just a rhythmic syllable. All right, so now we have the two eighth notes beamed together. And your question is there a difference between hearing the two eighth notes that are not beamed together? So if you have this versus this, right? And that's what you're asking. What would it sound like? Okay. So, first thing, chances are you probably will not just see an eighth note with the flag, an eighth note with a flag. You know why? Because musicians and composers like music to be clean. But let's just say we saw this, and what would it sound like, right? It would sound the same. Okay? All right. Even though it's written differently, it's going to sound the same. T T T T, or one N, one N. Okay. All it means is that it is notated differently, but the sound or the note value does not change. Okay. You can let me know if I answered your question. That was an excellent, excellent question. Okay. That is very similar to when we have notes that are tied, right? Visually, they look one way, but when we hear it, it's still the same sound as if it wasn't tied or you're just holding. And I would probably have to show you some notation for what I mean, but I would be drifting away from today's lesson. That was an excellent, excellent question. And you can let me know, Mobile Music, if I answered that for your understanding. Got it. Thank you. That is what I thought. Okay. Yes, yes. Okay. Yes, yes. Love that. Love that. Okay, so now where was I? I was now talking about 4/8 notes equal 1/2 note. And we know that the half note gets 2 beats, okay? So here's our half note, and I can even put my little dash because we know that we're sustaining, holding that for 2 counts, right? So if I was here, 1 and 2 and, all right, that's my counting. 1 and 2 and, or rhythmic syllables, T, 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 okay? Bop, 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 bop. Okay, sometimes the jazz musicians are bop, 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 bop. They like to do bop, 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 or T, 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 T. If you're learning eighth notes for the first time, usually at the elementary level, right? We would use rhythmic syllables. Sometimes we go right into the counting, 1 and 2 and, okay? All right, so let's continue, okay? Because this is all sort of building on each other. All right, so now what happens if we put 8 eighth notes? We know that that's going to equal 1 whole note. Let's count these eighth notes. We have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we can clap that. So get your clapping hands together with me. Oh, wait, hold on. Am I? Okay, yes, I almost got a little confused. I wasn't sure if I was sharing my screen there. Okay, so let's get our clapping hands together, okay? And we're just doing this section of the lesson here, okay? All right, so I got my clapping hands, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's do it again. 1, 2, clap with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and hopefully the microphone is picking up the clapping. Okay, now let's clap and do the rhythmic syllables, T-T, okay? 1, 2, rhythmic syllables, T-T, 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 T-T. All right. Okay. And then I kind of break it down with the math here. Okay. So I have instead 1/2 count plus 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 1/2 count. And you see how it looks like all of these eighth notes that just have the flag, how kind of cluttered this looks, but look how clean everything looks when everything is beamed together, okay? So there is, as some of the kids like to say, a method to my madness. Okay, when you've been teaching a long time, you start to hear these little kitty phrases. Okay, all right, so it looks clean when you can beam the eighth notes together. But when we add a half plus 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 a half, we get to our whole note. Okay, and so sometimes in music, you want the music to sound or feel different, and you use a variety of note values to get that music across to the listener. Okay. All right. And so now let's talk about drawing these eighth notes. Now we know that this is a flag. We talked about the parts of the note. Okay. And so as a single quarter note with a flag attached to the stem, we talked about stem direction. At that point, we were just dealing with the stem, but now we have a flag. So in this case, this is a space note. It's not the best. It's kind of slipping outside, but it should be more or less in between the lines. So if I was to draw my note head, remember we talked about the note head, not my little circle, even though it is a circle, but we call it a note head. And then I add my stem and then add my flag. Okay. All right. So that's a handwritten, and then this is like AI trying to help me out. All right. So now stem's going up to the right, or you can have it down to the left. Okay, so let's see if things are making sense. Thank you. 2 for 1 is letting me know things are making sense. Okay, and so we have a stem up and a stem down. Okay. All right, so is it getting hot in here? We are at the pizzeria and things are getting a little hot, but I'm glad that it is making sense. Okay. All right, so now here are eighth notes that can be drawn in 4. Okay, so let's see if I can get a pen that's going to bring it over here. Okay, whoops. Uh-oh, my apologies. Wait, I lost my page. Okay, let me get a little pen. I had one, but it's not showing up on this slide. Okay, here we go. So we have our eighth notes. You should know we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? And notice that the stems are going up to the what? Up to the right, up to the right, up to the right, because it is below the third line, okay? If I was to highlight the third line, where is my highlighter, right? So here's our third line, okay? Remember stem directions that we talked about. Because it is below the third line, stems are going to go up to the right. And in this case, since they're eighth notes, we're going to beam them together so it's nice and clean. Over here, the eighth notes are above the third line. Stems are going to go down to the what? Down to the left. Okay. And we're going to add our beam so that everything is nice and clean. Beaming these eighth notes together. Okay. And then, of course, we have some examples down here as well. Okay. Any questions? Does that give some clarity? Okay. I love that. Okay. All right. And then, of course, because I like to have fun with students, you will notice, as we talked about in our previous lesson, you will notice that the notes do not look the same. Okay. There is a reason why they differ. Notes will change based on its duration. Okay. Duration meaning how long or even short a note is held. So here we have the whole pizza, remember? And we had 4 beats or counts. Either way, same thing. A whole pizza gets 4 beats. Then we have our half note, 2 beats. Half the pizza, it gets 2 beats. Then we talked about the quarter note, right? 1 beat. 1 slice of pizza, it gets 1 beat. Now we added the flag. Okay, so notice how the notes are changing. A oval shape, this is our note head. Then we became a half note because we added the stem. Then we filled that note head in and it became a quarter note. Now we added the flag and now it's an eighth note. It gets half a beat. Okay, 1/2 of a slice of, and try to make some parallels here with food to make a connection. Okay, did I confuse anyone? Because sometimes this can, as my mother would say, or maybe not my mom, relative of ours, something about it blows my mind. I think that's the expression. Okay. And I don't want to blow anybody's mind. Okay. So let me just, sort of breathe everything in before we play our class, before we do our class play. All right. So let's do a little shake it out. All right. Come on. 30 seconds. All right. Come on. Shake it out. Put that all in your mind. Let it kind of just sit in. Okay. Because this was not, I don't want to say this is not hard. It has its level of complexity. How about that, right? Because we can do anything if we put our mind to it, okay? But we're going to give it a little workout, little shoulder jumping, kind of get our minds back, okay? Because I've given you a lot of concept, and I don't want you to, feel overwhelmed, okay? All right, so we're going to have some fun with our class play, okay? And what we do with the class play, for those of you who are watching, my phone, let me make sure, okay. What we do with our class play is to reinforce what we've learned, okay? So it's really so that you can walk away truly understanding today's lesson, okay? All right, so now I failed to write the instructions, the directions here, so that's my error. But looking here, we know we have the treble clef. You might even notice something a little bit strange, like why do I see two bar lines, two double bar lines here, right? Versus a single bar line, okay? And I don't want to confuse you. The program inadvertently added a double bar line here. And so I just was tired working on this for you all. It was late last night, and I just said, I'll just explain. Don't worry about it, okay? Sometimes the software will do that, and, it's just easier to just keep on going. It's more important that I show up for you than to try to be super, super perfect. But we're going to continue. And then also, it also allows me to work through each question that I have for you. So, you know what? Let's have some fun. This is black. What color pen should I use today? Usually I ask, give me a color for my pen. All right, we know Las Vegas went to the bathroom and was not feeling the best. And our other student, my South African student, Abdul, is not with us. I hope he's okay. So if you're watching, I have a couple of people watching and you haven't said hello to me. Come on, I would love to have a little hello and a little smiley face or heart. Okay, so I think we have green. Okay, green, green, green. Okay, so let me get my pen and let's do green. Green, blue. Okay, you guys are confusing me. I'm just going to go with blue. Well, what color is that? I can't tell. Let's do, all right, blue. I've had green before. Okay, let's do blue. Okay, so now here we go. This is our class play. The first measure, we have, they want us to add flags. I know it just says flags, and what do I do? But you have note heads here, and we have to add flags. So in your own words, how would we do this? Let's start with this note head that's on the second space of the treble clef. And you can also give me the letter names because we do have a clef. So we should know how to identify the pitch. Okay? Okay, you're back. Thank you, Jason. I'm hoping your name is Jason, okay? But I know you're Las Vegas to me. Okay, welcome back, and hopefully you're feeling a little bit better. All right, so we have flags, okay? How should we add the flags, okay? So let's put our clock back, and I'm going to give you a little adrenaline music, okay? All right, so we're just dealing with measure one. Okay, measure one. How can I add these note heads? Oh, it is. Okay, Jason. Your name is Jason. Okay. Okay, how should I add the flags? Okay. You tell me. All right, so I know everyone is just watching and waiting, so I'll help you. So the first thing I would say to myself, if I'm talking out loud or thinking out loud, I would say, okay, the note head is on the second space and it is below the third line because I know that Miss Christine is asking me about stem direction. So I would have to put this up to the right with a flag, okay? All right. And then the next one, I have a note head that is above the third line, and it's going to go down to the left with a flag, okay? And of course, I have my blue pen because we're having fun, but typically, you would have this black, right? Or you're using a pencil, but we're having a little fun. Okay, so now we have a note head that's on the first space and it is below the third line. We count from the bottom to the top. So one, line 2, line 3. That is how I came up with my third line for those of you who may not fully understand how I came up with the third line, okay? And so this is below the third line, so the stem is going to go up to the right with a flag, okay? And we kind of want to have a little curve with the flag. All right. And now here is a note head that's on the fifth line, okay? Counting from the bottom to the top. And we're going to bring this down to the left with a flag, okay? All right. Did everyone understand that? Okay. Looks like 2 for 1, up, down, up, down. I love it. I love it. That is correct. All right, let's do measure 2, okay? All right, so this goes in line with our lesson topics, drawing, identifying, and understanding note value of these eighth notes. Okay, come on in, horses. Okay. Oh, I could have shared something very exciting with you. All right, try to remind me, okay? All right, here we go. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up. Okay. Wow, thank you, my virtual orchestra. Okay. All right. So, measure 2 is asking us to have 2 sets of pairs. Ooh, what do we have to do? Do you know what to do? All right. So here, and we know we're turning everything into eighth notes, okay? So these are not going to be quarter notes. All right. So we want 2 sets of pairs. So let's get our highlighter and let's keep this third line going because that's kind of like our anchor point. All right. So now let's get our pen. And so now we want 2 sets of pairs. So we have a note head on the first line. So we know the stem is going to go up to the right. And we have a note head on the first space, right? This is a space note. And we know that this note, this stem is going to go up to the right. But instead of adding flags, we're going to beam them together. Well, let me get that a little cleaner for us, okay? And of course, this is part of having fun is watching me draw on the computer screen, okay? Let me get this a little clean so it doesn't look like a 16th note that we haven't talked about, okay? All right, so let's do this. All right, so we're going to add our beam, okay? So that's 1 pair. And now here we have a note head on the second line. We're going to put this up to the right. We have a note head on the first space, right? We're going to put this up to the right and we're going to beam it together. Does everyone see that? Okay, so we have a pair and a pair. The way we would count this is 1 and, oops. You know what? Let's use all right, we'll stick with our, let me use a different color for our counting, okay? So we know eighth notes get what? We count 1, a half a beat, which is what I'm looking for, 1 and We don't have a time signature here, by the way, but we can almost figure one out. So this would be 2 and, right? So this would be like a 2/4 time signature. We have 1 and 2 and. Does everyone see that? Or we could do T, 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 T. All right. Okay. Now let's go back to our blue color. I think everyone is following me so far. All right. So this is now going to be our measure number 3. And they want what? Flags. Okay. All right. So let's see if we have some questions. Mobile Music is saying connect the first 2 and the second 2, each with a beam in an upward direction. Wow, Mobile Music. That is some clarity there. I love that. Very articulate. Thank you, Mobile Music. That is correct. Okay. All right. So now here we go with measure 3. You want to work together? We can continue to work together. Okay. All right. So come on, Jason. We didn't forget about you, our Las Vegas student. Okay. So here we go. We have a note head in the first, don't listen to me right this second. We have a note head in the 4th space is what I'm trying to say. Okay. We have a note head in the 4th space. So this is above the 3rd line. Let's get that highlighter, Miss Christine. Okay. You know, live streaming, you're doing like 50 million things at one time. It is really fascinating. Okay. So here we have this note head here on the 4th line, right? Remember, we count from the bottom to the top. So space 1, space 2, space 3, and space 4. This is above the 3rd line. So this has to go down to the left. Okay. Does everyone see that flag? Okay. And then we have a note head on the 3rd space. I'll try to. Now this one gets very interesting, right? Because everything was either above or below that 3rd line. But what happens when the note head actually is on the 3rd line, Miss Christine? I mean, what do we do? Well, what you do, you have the option. You can go down to the left or you can go up to the right. Look at that. You have choices. You get to pick. Okay. So since we get to pick, you tell me in the chat or in the comments, okay, which direction should I put my note head that's on the 3rd line? Come on. I'm going to give you a few seconds for that. Okay. That's a fun one. My shoulders are going. You know I'm feeling good. My shoulders are going. You know I'm feeling good. Come on. Don't forget to like and give me a subscribe, okay? Come on. You have to tell me. My shoulders are jumping. Oh, someone said either way. Come on, that's not fun. All right. Okay, okay. Either way. All right. So either way, I guess it's up to me. So you know what? I'm going to just go up to the right. You know what? Yeah, I'll go up to the right. Okay. What the heck? Okay. You can do up to the right. You can go down to the left. Okay. It really doesn't matter. Okay. Okay. For that one, because it's on the 3rd line. All right, let's continue, okay? So here we go. We have our note head on the 1st line. You should know this is going to go up to the right with our flag, okay? Look, we have a note head that is above the 3rd line. We know that this is going to go down. Oops, look how crooked that line is. It's going to go down to the left, okay? My flags are not looking that good, but that's okay. How would we count this? 1, let's do red. Keep everything consistent. Okay, so now we're going to count the beats. 1, what we call like subdivision, okay, where when you have these 8th notes, 1 and 2 and, okay. There we go. Can everyone see that? Okay, now let's go back to our blue pen because we are just having all kind of colorful fun. 1 set of 4. Ooh, remember we talked about that? 1 set of 4. Where was that? Here we go. This was it. 4/8 notes equal 1/2 note. Okay. All right. So now we have to make these a group of 4/8 notes beam together. Okay, let's go to our class play. So one set of 4, how should I do it? How should I do it? Okay, I think you have this, so we can work it together. We have let's get our highlighter. So we have our little anchor point, and this is for our beginner students, okay, because everyone is welcome, but this is a beginner's class. So we have our note head here, which is on the what line? Is it the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth? It's on the second line, okay? Second line. So we go up to the right, okay? Now I have to beam it. So right now they're going to kind of look like quarter notes until I beam everything together. All right, so here's our next note head. It's on the first space. We're going to go up to the right, okay? And I'm going to go right past that fourth line. And then here we have, or actually, can go up a little bit. I'm going to bring this up so it's nice and clean, okay? Because they're varying pitches. Then we have another note here on the second line, all right? And then we have another note here on the first space up to the right. And we're going to beam, oops. Oh, it's part of the fun. And we're going to beam all of our notes together so that they are 8th notes, okay? And let's do our counting. Let's count these beats. I'm going to erase my circle so I have some space underneath. And we're working with our red pen for our counting. So everything really is clear. 1 and 2 and, right? Does everyone see that? That's one set in 4, okay? So we have 1 and 2 and if we were to count that T, 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 that rhythmic syllable, then we have 1 and 2 and, same thing, 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and. So if I wanted to be extra special, right, for those likes and subscribes, I could take my black pen this time and put a time signature of what? 2, 4 time, okay? Because every measure has 2 beats, okay? Yes, yes. Come on, give yourself a little round of applause. Did everyone see that? Okay, we did that as a class. Okay, any questions? Okay, any questions? Our class is just about coming to a close. Okay, I'll take my clock off. All right, and we can do a quick review. What did we do? Well, we went to the pizzeria, okay, in our imaginary world here, and we talked about the parts of the note, right? We know about the note head. We know this is not a line, but we call it a stem. Okay. And then we know that when you add a flag to the quarter note, it becomes an 8th note. We talked about that. I asked you, how many hearts do you see? You see 1, and then magically I cut it in half so that we can have a better understanding that 8th notes in a 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 time signature. They get 1/2 count or beat. Okay, so if someone says count the beats or how many counts, we're talking the same thing. Okay, all right, and so here we go: 2/4 time signature, 3/4 time signature, and 4/4 time signature. The 8th notes equal 1/2 count. That's how I articulated it. Okay, and so if I have 2 8th notes beam together, that is a beam. 1 and it's going to equal 1 quarter note because it's a half plus a half gives you 1 beat, okay, a quarter note. And we can say 1 and or TT, okay, 1 and. Let me hear you go. 1 and. You can snap your fingers if you can snap, okay? And then if we put two eighth notes together, which I don't know, we just talked about this, so I don't have to really go into this any further, but here's the math. A half plus a half and gives us the one beat there, the quarter note, okay? I'm coming to my questions. I see things are coming in the chat. Here's our eighth note. We have our note head, our stem, and our flag, okay? And so in this case, this is a note that makes a sound. We're not dealing with rest. This is an eighth note, a sound that lasts half of a beat here, T, okay? T. All right, it's a quick note, okay? Shorter than a quarter note. Two eighth notes. Many times eighth notes are what? Beamed together. Beamed together, like brother and sister. Maybe not brother and sister. That could be a bad example. But they are beamed together. Two eighth notes. Two eighth notes equal one beat, okay? And someone had asked a question about, does it sound different if we have an eighth note with a flag, an eighth note with a flag versus one that's beamed together? And the answer is it's going to sound like T, T. One N, okay? Because you have an eighth note. It's still, the note value has not changed. It just visually looks different. We talked about four eighth notes equaling one half note, right? So we have our 1 and 2 and T, 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 the equivalent of a half note. We know that in a 2/4, 3/4, 4/4 time signature, the half note gets 2 beats. That's something we talked about today. Look at all of this knowledge. My goodness. Then we talked about eight eighth notes. Try to say that a couple of times. Eighth notes equal one whole note. Okay, and so we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? And of course we broke it down into like a math class, okay? But we know we're having fun and we're learning. So if it connects with you mathematically, fine. If it connects differently with the pizza, that's fine. If it connects with you rhythmically with the rhythmic syllables, TT, that's fine too. I mean, there's so many variations to get down to the core. That's what I love about learning. You don't have to learn it one way. This is the only way. We learn different, right? We don't look the same, but we learn different. We all come together learning music because that's what's the core that brings us all together. So we have 8 eighth notes equal one whole note, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's what we talked about. We talked about drawing the eighth notes. If you're joining for the class a little bit late, we talked about stem directions going up to the right. And wow, I have a lot of phone calls today. my watch is just vibrating. I apologize. So eighth notes can be drawn with the stem going up to the right. And here we have our flag. And then we have our stem direction going down to the left with the flag, okay? And we also talked about drawing eighth notes. See, I'm getting the eighth notes here, eighth notes. But we talked about eighth notes can be drawn in 4s with the beam, right? And we did the counting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? All right, what else did we do? Oh, and then we broke it down even further by visually looking at the different notes. We had a whole note, then we turned it into a half note by adding a stem. Then we filled that note head and made it a quarter note, and then we added the flag to make it an eighth note. And then finally, we played our class play together. So voila, job well done. I'm so proud of all of you. If you've enjoyed this lesson, you know what to do. You know what I'm going to ask. You already know. So come on, let me see you. Just give me a little like, okay? And if you haven't subscribed, Jason in Las Vegas, come on and subscribe. We're trying to get those numbers up, 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 up. All right, let's see if there are any questions before I say my goodbyes. Mobile Music is saying, thanks, Miss Christine. This was very helpful. I'm so glad that you found this was helpful. And 2 for 1, you agree. Great review. Brings back memories from music class back in the day. easier now, though. Yes, sometimes we learn music later on in life and things sort of connect. You know, you have pieces of knowledge, right? I'm sure if I was to go back to some classes in my earlier days, like math class, I would probably say, "Oh yeah, I remember that." But you know, if you're not using it, you probably will forget it. But not now because we have live in the music room. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Did you enjoy this? Okay, you can be honest. Was it like, oh my goodness, this is tough? Or was it brush your shoulders off, this was easy? Okay, either way, I appreciate you all. Okay, I really, really do. Jason, feel better. Okay, with your headache, feel better. If you're new joining, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next week. I'm going to update my channel. In fact, let me see if I can go over to the YouTube channel so that you all can kind of see. Um, you know what is going on over here, okay? So this is really live, like you can see me live here. But here, go to the courses. Okay, I mentioned this before, but it's worth repeating. If you have no idea and you're completely new to music, go ahead and go to the Unit 1 course, which is in red. If you're kind of I don't know, like you're not too new, but you're still kind of relatively new to music and you need a little bit of a refresher, go ahead and go to Unit 2 course, okay? And then you can go to last unit that we just completed, which was Unit 3 in yellow. And then we have our current Unit 4, okay? And all the lessons are there for your enjoyment. All right. We even have a little course for our kiddos. Okay. So there's something for everyone. Okay. There's something for everyone. And guess what? This is free. I'm not asking for any, donation, right? I mean, we welcome donations, but I'm not asking. Okay. I'm trying to give you the tools so that you can be proficient. Okay. So that you can be proficient. So let me say a happy Saturday. Thank you. Look who's here. Brenda Gibbons. My mother is in the classroom. How are you, Mom? I thought you were calling me. But I could not answer you because I was here in the live in the music room. Let me see if I can take this off. Hold on. Yeah. So you can all see my mother is telling me, hello, sorry, I'm late. No worries. We welcome you, even if you are tardy for the party, as they say. Okay, so listen, thank you all. I'll see you next Saturday, 10 a.m. Oh, 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay? And with that being said, I want to say have a wonderful day, morning, evening, whatever the time zone is for you. Continue to keep music in your heart because I believe music is healing and we need that. And I'll see you in the next lesson. I'm going to say bye for now.